The Chinese Communist Party for a long time has had countries in check for the lengthiest time. They have manipulated countries by feeding money to the top officials or politicians to sway things on CCP's favor. But one thing they might have overlooked is where they hid their ill-gotten wealth. Yes, that is right. We are talking about $3.99 trillion. In an unexpected turn of events, Switzerland, the country known to have one of the most stable financial economies and secretive bank institutions, will be having a referendum this November to decide on whether Swiss establishments, especially Swiss banks, should do business with countries violating human rights. Three things come to mind when we talk about China's human right violations. First, is the China's ethnic cleansing and detention of Uyghurs in Xinjiang. The second, the organ harvesting and detention of the Falun Gong practitioners. And the most recently the third, and trigger to the proposal, the passing of the national security law in Hong Kong. This is a more devastating trouble for the CCP. In a recent interview with the Swiss Foreign Minister Ignazio Cassis, he was noted that human rights violations are on the rise in China, and that if China abandons the one country, two systems principle in Hong Kong, it will affect numerous Swiss companies that have invested there. Furthermore, he added, first we established economic relations, and then we talked about human rights, he says. But China has changed, which is why Switzerland must defend its interests and values more robustly, for example by strengthening international law and the multilateral system. This statement is viewed as a change in the position of the Swiss government from its neutral stance. Switzerland has not been involved in any conflicts in hundreds of years. The government always tried to be neutral, especially regarding conflict between nations, but that has changed. In a recent tweet last July 1, 2020, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs said that it was seriously concerned by adoption of the national security law on Hong Kong. That risks undermining the high degree of autonomy of Hong Kong, having a detrimental effect on the independence of the judiciary and the rule of law. China's response was prompt, using the wolf warrior diplomacy. The Chinese mission to the UN in Geneva accused them of interfering in its internal affairs and violating the UN Charter. The proposal of whether to freeze the bank accounts of the CCP, depending on the results on the referendum, would devastatingly affect the Chinese Communist Party's top officials, their families and the CCP itself. This proposal is so much more frightening than the sanctions set by the United States on the 11 top officials in Hong Kong recently. These will affect the loyalty of all top Chinese Communist Party members. According to G News, reports of Swiss bank account of the Chinese Communist Party members are reappearing, that about 100 Chinese have 7.8 trillion Chinese yuan or $1.12 trillion hidden in Swiss banks, and also top Chinese Communist Party's top officials have amassed about 20 trillion Chinese yuan or about $2.8 trillion spread through 5,000 different accounts. As I have mentioned earlier, freezing of this accounts would put the Chinese Communist Party spinning around their head. The proposal is yet one of CCP's ultimate fear. Will it come true? Let's wait for November.